Hello and welcome to the Satluj TV podcast. The writer Mark Twain once said history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. And that sentiment has never been more appropriate than when we look at 21st century India. Now, we've often compared the rise of nationalist extremism in India in its form of Hindutva RSS with the similar rise of nationalist extremism in 1930s Germany. That was in the form of Nazism. So, are there indeed genuine parallels? Is history repeating itself, or more likely rhyming with the elements that pushed Germany into that abyss in the 1930s? So, to discuss all the red flags that we would expect to see in such a descent into authoritarian and dangerous fascism, I'm joined today by a regular guest, Dr. Gurinder Singh Grewal. Dr. Grewal, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us once again today.
Good morning, Angus. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Yeah, it may look like we are repeating some of them, but I think we have to keep analyzing, keep comparing the current Indian democracy to what happened in other places, how democracy did not survive. I think there are many parallels. So first, I think we can start with from Weimar to New Delhi, the crisis of Indian democracy, an analysis of democratic erosion, majoritarianism, and structural health. So there are a lot of comparisons. Weimar is a place in Germany, so Weimar Germany means Hitler's Germany. That's what I think we're referring to. So let's go to the next one. Structural inspection, not a prediction. So we are inspecting, we are comparing the two systems. First, I start with a healthy democracy, then there's a democratic erosion, then followed by dictatorship. This analysis examines whether contemporary political developments resemble the laws of democratic decline, identified by historians assessing the health of institutions, federalism, minority rights, and constitutional governance. So, what we will be discussing, Angus, is how things deteriorated in Germany and how similar this is in current India, RSS is India. Okay. The historical lessons of Weimar Germany. The rise of authoritarian often bypasses military coups, utilizing the precise tools of the law. The historical warnings, the miscalculation by conservative elites, exploitation of crisis like Reichstag fire, gradual legal destruction from within. The Hitler did not took over Germany by coups or by military. He had a minority government and he sneaked in, even killed his own colleagues. But when he got the power, and then it became a dictator. So Modi similarly, yes, it started with elections sponsored by the big mega money houses. And now I think even the elections are stolen. The government decides who will vote, not the people deciding who the government is. Government control the judiciary, government control the press, and so this is a very similar deterioration going on. Let's go next. So India's founding constitutional vision. So some people may argue that I am not saying the Gandhi, Nehru, Ambedkar, Patel, Azad. I'm not admiring them. I'm a historical reference. What we are told, whether we believe or not, I don't believe all those, but just for discussion, we are told the 1947 blueprint, what people were told, a complex design engineered to support a massive diverse population. That's what we told the Nehru and Patel. They were nationalist. Okay, they said they will have pluralism, linguistic diversity, robust federalism, minority protection, constitution, democracy. These were the things discussed, and people thought the country is going to have them, but that is not happening. So next, from civic nationalism to majoritarianism. Early Indian nationalism was engineered to create a civic national inclusion of deeply diverse identities. That's what the the apparent, structure appeared to be. But slowly it has shifted to recent political trends emphasize religious majoritarianism and cultural uniformity, applying immense pressure to a constitution design of plurality. You can see that slowly every day is deteriorating. It's very obvious. They want Hindi to be everybody's language. They want the Hindu religion and everybody to be uniform. The God didn't make people uniform. The equality is the demand and not uniformity. People want to be treated equally, whether they look same or not, whether they believe in same God or not. So next, the centralization of power, an unprecedented concentration of political authority in New Delhi. Okay, what they have are ministers, the states are controlled by them. There's no independent bodies. The prime minister is in the center. What prime minister controls? Prime minister's government controls press, judiciary, election commission, and this hyper concentration is very similar to Soviet Union. I think we talked last time. So there are a lot of similarities with them too. And next, the rise of personality center politics. There's a leader in the middle. So Modi is the face. Modi is the new Hitler, but in India, not in Germany. Cultivation of dominant politics, image supersedes structural governance. Historical pattern, institution designed to check power gradually become entirely subordinate to individual leadership. You see that there is no independent judiciary, there is no independent election commission, so everything is centralized. Okay, next. So, a fading map of federalism. They thought country was going to be federal. The systemic weakness of regional political forces, for example, decline of Shiromani Akali Dal. The regional parties like Shiromani Akali Dal has been almost destroyed with this BJP help. Fragmentation of Shiv Sena. Shiv Sena was another regional party in Maharashtra. They almost been killed by BJP. Okay, Kashmir is occupied by army. We talk Maharashtra, and in the south, they are being forced to read Hindi, and that fight is going on. So the mechanism a sustained campaign using political pressure, financial constraints, and orchestrated defection, horse trading to alter electoral mandates after election concludes. That's what happening in Bengal. They won the election by mechanized system, and now the MPs from Bengal are like trading like slaves. Instead of leaving representing what people elected them for, now they're joining BJP under pressure. Next. Electoral integrity and public confidence. They have electoral bonds where they don't have to disclose who paid the money for them, okay? Opaque campaign funded mechanism. They collect more money than any other party. EVM controversy, persistent debates over electronic voting integrity, Even in the US, I think a lot of people are saying paper ballot is the best. Okay. Voter roll allegation of exclusion. It's not only allegation. I think people are convinced that's what they're doing. They will be doing that in Punjab too. Okay. They have done in Bengal. They have done many other places. There's the election commission, perceived erosion of absolute independence. So the election commission has a lot of powers, and they are basically working as a arm of government to help Modi government to stay in power. They are not working for the people of India. We have in United States, we have elections, presidential elections, but each state's election is run by Secretary of State for that state. The federal government does not conduct elections in the US. So look at the federal system versus centralized system. Next. enforcement agencies and political campaigns. State enforcement agencies are increasingly viewed as a weaponized instrument. State here we mean not state government, but we're saying Indian state enforcement agencies are being used as a weapon to subdue the dissidents. Structure impact. The selective use of anti-corruption sweeps and investigation directly targeting opposition figures artificially alter the landscape of political competition. So when the ED goes, those people scum and they join BJP. And when they join BJP, the ED goes away. So look at the height of corruption. ED enforcement is only until they join the BJP. If they don't join BJP, they go to jail. And they can be in jail without any trial, like Kejriwal was in jail. And finally, after a few years when he was released, he was cleared. But he was in jail without having any trial. Yep. Next. Judicial independence under scrutiny, okay? Justice must not only be done, it must also be seen as done. Post-retirement, judges are given governorships and Rajya Sabha members, upper house members. The judiciary derives authority from public trust, not military or financial power. Delay in political cases and post-retirement government appointment create perception that judges anticipate future benefit threatening foundational credibility. This is happening. The Chief Justice of India, he was calling those young people cockroaches. Now there's a cockroach party fighting that. One of the demands they have is that the judges should not be given all those appointments after their retirement. I don't know if they're going to be influential, but at least people are recognizing what's happening. Currently, about 150, next. Currently, there's some badminton tournament by some private organization for the judges and lawyers. 150 judges and lawyers are in the UK, so you may have seen them playing somewhere or enjoying their life. So the 75 are high-level judges. Who paid for their travel and accommodation? Corporate sponsor. Do they have litigation pending before Indian courts? So these corporate sponsors are not going to spend their money on judges if they don't see some benefit. Some of them may actually be facing litigation threats. Was the Union Law Ministry involved? Yes, Union Law Ministry was involved. He's the one who arranged all that. Was an ethics review conducted? No. Were expenses publicly disclosed? No. Even without direct proof of bias ruling, public confidence drops when judges appear financially or socially linked to the powerful interest. So, yes, people have the perception that judiciary is not free, is working for the government and the corporate sponsors. So it's not perception. Actually, if you analyze one by one what they're doing, it is really true. Next. Squeeze on civil space, megaphones. All the media, Godi media, there's hardly any main media which is not controlled by the government. There's some social media channels still working. I don't know how long they'll be working. Media ownership concentration leads to passive self-censorship and the systemic limiting of independent journalism. So there's no real independent TV channels left other than some social media. So the people who are not agreeing with the government, if you look at the picture of the vice, they are being squeezed in a vice. Like FCRA, we talked about that. The money cannot go to religious institutions out of India. So all those regulations, if people go to the court, they challenge it. The courts are controlled by the central government. So there is no justice. Yeah. Next. Religious minorities and constitutional equality. Okay. Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, they are being attacked. The pluralistic blueprint is under severe stress from organized majoritarian forces. Implementation of anti-conversion laws, contentious citizenship debates, unchecked hate speech, escalating vigilante violence. This is all going on at the same time. There's a change in government in Bengal. There's a BJP, a pro-BJP government. They are openly having hate speeches and attacking Muslims. It would not be long before this we swallow them into the Bangladesh. Next. Dalits and continuous structure inequality. The battle for representation is historical and ongoing, rooted in legacy of Gandhi Ambedkar Pact. This is a pact where we talked before. Ambedkar was pressured to sign this, and Gandhi cheated them. And he became a Mahatma, great soul, but under the great soul facade was a crook. Current reality, contemporary cases involving Dalit officials and judges demonstrating the deep-seated discrimination and structural inequality remain critical fault lines in India and democratic foundation. So this is the problem for every minority. Okay, next. So Angus, you will be surprised. Recently, one of the social channels, a Congress leader who is a retired wing commander from the Indian Air Force, was talking how many women are missing in India, and there is hardly any FIR recorded. And some of the BJP leaders have been blamed or accused of that. So there is a actual number may never be known. There is no law and order. There's a human trafficking, sexual exploitation, forced labor, child marriage, domestic servitude, government failure. This transcends political politics. A democracy must be judged by its protection of vulnerable, police delays in filing first information, that's the FIRs. So there's no transparency. This was shocking coming from a lady who is the leader of Congress Party, an ex-high officer of Indian Air Force. It's shocking that what the ladies or the young girls are facing in this democracy. Next. The paradox of economic growth, GDP growth and corporate power concentrate. Okay. They say, oh, Indian GDP, per capita GDP is so and so. We talked one time, if there are 10 people, one earns 1 million, the other earns 1,000. When you say per capita GDP, you are basically saying they are rich, but 9 are poor. So this is the paradox of GDP. Per capita GDP in India has declined recently, $300 to $400 per person. And that's even though it's not a uniform distribution, but still the numbers are going down. India's highly publicized growth story masks dangerous structure inequalities. When wealth and corporate power concentration at the very top, the base of the democracy, the working populace and agriculture sector destabilizes. So there's these GDP per capita GDP, they are numbers comparing one country to the other. When you analyze within the country, it is a useless calculation because it's not distributed equally and conveys no meaningful message. Yeah. Next. So now we're comparing Weimar to Weimar Germany to India. Okay. So we have similarities on one side and the difference. The people who think India is doing fine, they are the one who are saying the differences. But to me, they are hardly any differences. Okay. So the slight difference shows not that I am saying is different. It is what some of the people are portraying, but I think it's the same. So let's talk about the similarities. Leader-centered politics, okay? That's the Hitler, now the Modi. Weakening of political opposition. See how they cheat in elections. Surge in nationalistic rhetoric, okay? 80% of the population is identified as a Hindu. They may not be, but even 45%, 50% of them, they can mobilize and they can have create difficulties for minorities. When people are following that kind of rhetoric, they don't think of justice. They are mobilized based on their emotions. The sustained institutional pressures. We talk about ED and justice system, no free press, political centralization, use of legal mechanism against opponents. Okay, all this is happening in India. There's a perception that India has election courts and all that. That I don't want to use a bad word, but that's I think not true. That's being hidden to cover up what we think the similarities are. Next. Lessons from the Soviet Union. Excessive centralization inevitably weakens a massive diverse system. The warning for India. Bureaucratic concentration and economic insufficiency alienate constituent linguistic and cultural nationalities. Centralized power in a deeply diverse civilization risk breaking the state structure entirely. This is happened in Soviet Union, but it's slowly happening in India. Okay. Next. Future of Indian democracy, reform or decline. Okay. Centralization is going to destroy, decentralization can save. So we have two arms. But decentralization, who is going to decentralization? I don't think any of these leaders are capable of doing or they really want to do it. I think these elections are not going to save India. I think the future of Indian democracy is bleak. I don't think there's anybody who can make it a decentralized system. I think it's going to go away. So next slide. Next, I think what we are going to talk next is from government. We're comparing German government to Indian government, but behind the scene, what is the Indian government? Indian government now has become RSS and BJP. Yeah, the face is called election government, but behind the scene, who is these people running this country? So there's a Hydra of Hindutva. Hydra is a serpent with multiple heads. I think it's a Greek word. So I'm comparing, to me, this Hindutva is a serpent with multiple heads. What they want majoritarianism and Indian state. And architecture map of the multiple head and network shaping the political, cultural, and religious future of India. So who is behind this government is the Hindutva Hydra with multiple heads. That's what we're going to discuss more because that is what is destroying. These Hindutva people, they were inspired by Nazi party when they started RSS and the Hindu Mahaparishad. Some of them was inspired by Nationalist fascist party of Italy by Mussolini. So they were admirers of Mussolini and Hitler. So these are the people who started these organizations. Okay. Mapping of ecosystem, the organism, multi-headed network, organizations functioning separately but unified by the shared objective of a Hindu Rashtra. Nobody knows how many organizations are under RSS or how many members they have because they don't publish any list. The method, covert patent operations, persistent integration, operating day and night through foundational institutions, not just dramatic electoral events. Okay. When the government, which is face of RSS, BJP, is look like they came in power with election, behind the scene, these parties are doing this. So the stakes are future of plurality, the systemic pressure on diverse communities, and the ultimate stability of the Indian Union. So this system behind the scene is working and will destroy the union. Anatomy of a Hydra. So Hydra, look, we talked with a serpent which has multiple heads. There's the RSS in the center, the Hindu Rashtra. They have RSS Rashtras as a party. They say they are a cultural party. Operate separately, pressures a common ideological thing. Then they have a BJP, both founded by a Brahmin, and operate separately, pursue a common ideological objective. Then there's a Bajrang Dal. This is a very militant part of RSS. They go fight and physically harm the minorities. They operate separately, but they're no different. Okay. VHP, Vishwa Hindu Parishad, again doing the same thing. They are also kind of a militant group like Bajrang Dal. Then there's an overseas advocacy group, again run by Brahmins. So there's Hindu Foundation America and Kona. We talked about these two. These two organizations, one which were able to influence the governor of California, not supporting the anti-caste bill and training of the law and order, recognizing the transnational oppression. So you can see the RSS sitting in India, but all these are no different. This is all RSS BJP organizations. Functional taxonomy beyond the ballot box. Electoral politics, securing structural state power. That's what they've done through the election. Then they have a cultural organization redefining national heritage. Okay, so they want to control the whole education system of India, centralized. You remember there was a strike by students in Punjab University because that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to use the administrative structure of Punjab University. Yes, students were able to stop. For now, I don't know for how long. Then there's a religious mobilization campaigning to unify diverse traditions under a single umbrella. Okay. So they, like Article 25, they are telling us we are all Hindus. Okay. Educational institutions shaping the curricula of future generations. Okay. So they are trying to change the policy. Recently, what happened? What they call a NEET exam. Okay. I was trying to understand what is a NEET exam. So this system now is centralized. So the centralized body then hires somebody. The Education Minister of India hires a company who conducts this examination. What is this examination for? For students to go to medical school, colleges, to become a dentist or veterinarians. So the medical fields. So this education minister comes from the state of Odisha. He hired a company from Odisha, which was already blacklisted in India, and he rejected the one which was a good company, and the exam leaked and became a big issue. So, with this kind of system, I think if I was there now, I probably wouldn't be able to become a physician because these people who had the leak questionnaire before them, how would you compete with them? So this is not only changing the education system, it's changing the structure of that. So the people who are going to become physicians, veterinarian, dentists, by buying the questionnaire and paying for that, what kind of professionals they are going to be? The whole thing is going to deteriorate. I think this is deteriorating more rapidly than anybody realized. Diaspora advocacy, we talked about Hindu Foundation. They've tried to change curriculum in several states, even in California. Peter Frederick and Pajan Singh Pindra, they have been talking about this for a long time. Now it's becoming obvious. Media information dominating social media and digital platforms. So every media is controlled by majoritarian government. Next. Modus operandi, patient and relentless. So these RSS people are more patient but persistent. They gradually keep doing what they want to do, and that's a non-stop. Dramatic political events, elections, political personality, where the word focus. So people are focused on the elections, but they will change legislation, educational curriculum, media narratives, religious campaigns, legal institutions, economic influence, and digital platform. So these are covert operations going on by RSS BJP. On the surface, it looks like there's a government and the election and the politics, but this is the hidden agenda by this Hydra, the multi-headed serpent. Next. Process of assimilation, okay. Uniformity, what they're trying to have the uniformity bill. Political pressure, culture assimilation, historical reinterpretation, education influence, demographic majoritarianism. So they're changing everything. The sad thing is in Punjab, there are a lot more private schools than the government schools. We went to government school. So these private schools are teaching more Hindi, English, and the students are not allowed to talk in the school in Punjabi. So these people are finishing high school, not be well educated in Punjabi. And they taught English, they don't learn enough English either. So they are charging high fees, people sending their children thinking, yeah, their children will get better education than government schools. Actually, this is a money-making machine. So when they finish, they don't know Punjabi, they don't know English. I think they are wasting their time. But this is the system growing there, which is a sad part for my state. A vulnerable plurality, a transformation where marginalized communities increasingly feel like guests, not equal stakeholders. So in that country, I think the minorities like Sikhs, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, regional linguistic communities, Dalits, a lot of them, I would say, majority of them start feeling that like they are not in their own country. That's the sad part. This is where they were born. This is where the ancestors were born. This is where the grand ancestors were born. Now they feel like they are not in their country. Anybody given opportunity is trying to escape by legal or illegal means. Next. Two radically divergent visions, okay? The goal. The supporters of Modi government say the project of national unity. The critical review is centralization of absolute power. Okay? The method. They are using cultural revival and civilizational restoration. That's what they are saying. Well, what they are doing is systematic marginalization and forced assimilation. They're trying to convert people back to Hindu fold with these methods. The result is unified historical grounded strong state. That's what they are saying they're doing. Well, what they are doing is different. They are diminishing pluralism and erasure of distinct identities. So like they want to erase the Sikh identity. They want to say, oh, you are Hindus, and they're trying, but I do not think they will succeed with the Sikhs. They will not succeed in Punjab. I don't know somewhere else. I think this land of 10 gurus will not succumb to them. Yes, we will be pressurized. I think people will be hurt, but I don't think they'll succeed. I think what they're doing in Punjab is going to be the determining how long they stay in power in India. So finally, next. The answer to this question shapes not only the future of marginalized community, but the long-term stability of Indian Union itself. So, yes, the answer, I think we know the answer. This heavily centralized Indian state will not survive unless they can decentralize. But I don't see any Gorbachev there. So I think the answer is it's going to disintegrate, destruct. The only hope is it disintegrate without violence, so the hundreds and thousands, millions of people don't kill each other. The structure map of Hindutva reveals an ongoing relentless effort to permanently redefine the republic. Okay, so this RSS, BJP, and all those heads of the Hydra we showed, no different than Nazis. What happened to Nazis, I think, is going to happen in India, and it's going to go the way Hitler Germany went with a violence end. But I hope it disintegrates more like Soviet Union without violence. But one or the other is definitely going to happen. How fast? I think with every day, I think look like it's getting more closer. So that's my perception. I could be wrong. I am reading and comparing what happened in Germany, what happened in Soviet Union, and I'm trying to compare that to current India. Yes, people can disagree with me. All those BJP, RSS people definitely will disagree with me, but I think everybody has the right to speak. We live in a free nation, and I have a right to free speech, and I will keep expressing my thinking. I don't know who's going to right, who's going to be wrong. So, and this is, I think, the last slide.
Indeed, thank you, Dr. Grail. And interesting, your last sentence. This is a free nation. It'd be interesting if you tried to say this or give this presentation in India itself. How free you would feel. I suspect slightly different.
Yes, I think once you know something and you live in a free country and you don't speak up and you don't say what you need to say, and you do all for money making, then you are basically intellectual prostitute, and I cannot be that.
Indeed, and I would like actually
I
also.
have nothing to gain and nothing to lose. I have to do what I think is my moral duty, being a Sikh.
Yes, absolutely right. And I just want to remind our audience and regular viewers of Perspectives might be familiar with this. The Caravan magazine, and you talked about the many-headed Hydra of RSS, and I'd point our audience to this wonderful website that was put together quite recently by the Caravan magazine in conjunction with a French university, Sciences Po, as it's called. They did a huge amount of research to actually try and identify at least as many heads of this Hydra that they could find. And they drew it all together into this one website, and I'm going into it live now. And this is how it looks. And they have literally mapped all around the world. Every one of these red shapes represents a collection of the RSS and known RSS affiliates. I'll just quickly zoom in. There you go, the east coast of the US. I mean, there's 20 in just the New York region alone. And likewise, they are right across the United States. California, we know very well. There's a lot in California, etc., etc. So the audience can feel free to go along and find that website yourself and actually see just how extensive this Hydra is. It is quite frightening, Dr. Grail, is it not?
It is very frightening, and I don't know why people are closing their eyes and trying to ignore it. There's a story like a pigeon is seeing the cat, so he closes the eye. He's not seeing the cat. Like a cat disappears, but the cat comes and eats the pigeon. So that's going to happen to the people who have closed eyes. I think they need to open eyes, just like the article you showed of what we talked. So I am not the only one, saying Hydra. I think that many people have recognized this Hydra.
Yeah, without question. And I want to talk about the bigger picture in a moment, but one specific question that did actually, or at least one specific area that did hit me part way through your presentation. You did, of course, and this is very much reflective of a democracy as we would expect to see, is that normally any political movement, any political party needs money to operate and to be successful. And you could argue there is a correlation behind the more money a political party has, the more powerful, the more successful it is, whatever. It's interesting then that you did highlight in India that there is a very deliberate agenda whereby, as you rightly pointed out, that a lot of the political donations to parties, it is a very opaque process. In other words, it's very easy for certainly the mainstream parties, and obviously particularly the BJP, to source huge amounts of money but not be accountable. And yet, contrary to that, also they brought in recently the Foreign Contributions Regulation Act, which of course you did touch on in your presentation, which means that at the will of the government, they can examine any other potential dissenting organisation, party, whatever, and they can demand transparency. Where are they getting the money from? So in other words, this is a double-edged sword. So they hide their own political contributions by law, they can legally do so, and yet they've also turned that law around to say, right, any foreign contributions, because of course the diaspora do tend to support the dissenting parties from outside the nation, they know if they demand transparency of foreign money coming into political parties, then of course they can close it down through, again, weaponizing the law.
Yes, this is the sad part. And, the intelligent people in the opposition know, I think they are having a hard time fighting it. And I think they will fight it. Recently, there was some meeting in Delhi where opposition is saying, that we are not going to be able to defeat them in elections. So I think they want to mobilize people. That is probably the best way. People mobilization. When people, remember we talked, 3.5% people will come on the roads. They will not have enough handcuffs or jails and all that. They will not be able to fight. So I think that's the only way people, if they want to preserve this country and make a decentralized system, that they can do that. People have to come. People can't be sitting on their smartphones and sending messages. They got to go to the street. They got to object. They need to fight. And yes, some of them will have to be facing sacrifices, but that's the only way. You can preserve something or you can create something which is important to you. By sitting at home on the cell phone, I don't think you can fight the government. Yes, you can mobilize, but eventually they have to go to the street. And that's what I think the opposition realized.
Indeed. And I think certainly what I've noticed when I debate online with Hindu, I would call them indoctrinated Hindus, who are totally supportive of the Modi regime and everything that Modi is creating. And they say, we are a democracy. And that is always the comeback. Yeah, but we are a democracy. But of course, the one thing they're not realising is, and this is really the crux of this whole presentation, is it rhyming with what happened in 1930s Germany? Now, clearly in some parts it isn't, but in other parts it most definitely is. And there is this concept of the boiled lobster. When you boil a lobster, it doesn't know it's being boiled alive because the changes are very subtle. They're incremental. They're very, very slow changes. And it is only when it's too late do you realise. And what I would like to do, Dr. Grohl, I'd like to go back to one of your... this one. Here we are. This slide here, I think, really speaks volumes because, yes, there are similarities to 1930s Germany, but of course the counter-argument saying, well, actually there are differences to 1930s Germany. But I want to go through these and just explain yes, but, because every single one of these differences always has a yes, but condition attached to it. What I mean by that is elections continue to be held. Yes, India is a democracy because elections continue to be held. Yes, but. And the yes, but there is that...
So let me...
Sorry, go on, Doctor.
Yes, they have elections in the Soviet Union. They have elections in Russia, but Putin is always elected.
Exactly. So, yeah. And I think that is the point, because they are starting to use these dirty tricks. We saw it recently in the West Bengal election, which was very controversial, where the BJP took control of Bengal. But many people said, hang on, there was all sorts of dirty tricks going on there. So that is the yes, but. And we can go through each one of these elements. Opposition parties still exist and govern states. Yes, but they are being edged out. We're seeing these parties, these coalitions being broken apart by the BJP. In Punjab, we're seeing that. Likewise, the Shirmani Akali Dal being pushed out, for example. So again, in other words, if we go through every single one of these differences, there is always a yes, but. In other words, even the final sort of defences against this authoritarian fall into fascism, even these final defences are slowly falling. The trouble is, it's so slow that many in India aren't even noticing it, because they're the majority, like the majority Germans in 1930s Germany. Yeah, well, hooray for Germany. It seemed fine if you were part of that majority. It's only when it was too late did people start to realise, hang on a second, this isn't actually really what we thought we were getting. And so do you feel that is very much the case in India?
Yeah, everything you said is true. But let me add something I just remember. Well, Hitler, before he committed suicide, he was upset. The Germans did not fight enough for me. So there were people in the underground, the railways and all the hiding when Germany was being bombarded by other countries. So there were, nobody knows the exact number. There may be hundreds and thousands or maybe millions. He flooded all that. He said, these bastards did not fight enough for me. He killed his own people. So the people who are celebrating BJP, Modi, expects these crazy people can do the same thing to you. When they go down, they don't go down easily. They take everything else with them. This is a lesson, I think, for RSS, BJP volunteer to learn. They're not going to be able to save you, but they may be the one who will kill you.
Absolutely, it does bring back that old poem that was written by a preacher just after the Second World War, which was, first they came for, I forget who it was, but first they came for the Jews and I didn't speak up for them because I was not a Jew. Then they came for the next, and then the next, and when they came for me, there was nobody left to speak up for me. And it is pretty much that same concept in India. It's all very well for the Hindu majority to say, yeah, you can go after the Muslims or the Sikhs or the Jains or whoever, because it doesn't affect me. But ultimately, one day, they will come for you. And who's going to be left to speak for you? And I think that is the message.
Yeah, and they may kill their own people that they didn't fight enough for them.
Indeed.
They need to remember that.
It's shocking. But as I say, it's interesting parallels. And this is a subject that I've no doubt we will revisit on many occasions in the future. But unfortunately, we've run out of time and we will return to this discussion soon. But in the meantime, Dr. Grail, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us once again.
Thank you, Angus. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.
And thank you for watching the Satluj TV podcast. We will see you next time.